for your heart is good for your brain. So thank you all for joining us. Each week, we try to bring you 1 hour of information and content that will help you improve your aging. We are the Emory Goizetta Alzheimer's Disease Research Center, and our mission is to ultimately find interventions, therapies, and hopefully a cure for memory impairment. Today, you're going to hear from Dr. Ken Hepburn. He will be talking about how to manage conflict with your individuals or loved ones who are not the primary caregiver of your person living with dementia. We know that comes up so frequently, and we want to be able to give you some guidance and strategies. So Dr. Hepburn will be covering that topic. And then, as I mentioned, Dr. Parker will come on after Dr. Hepburn, and she will be answering your frequently asked questions. So now's the time to go ahead and put them in the chat or the Q&A if you want her to respond to them. We will try to get to as many of those as we can. You've already sent in several, so we appreciate that. Then you're going to hear from Matt Doiron. He's going to talk about the Cognitive Empowerment Program and what is coming online for you all in January. Then you're going to hear from Whit Morgan. Whit, there was a question about healthy aging, and I think Dr. Parker address that. So if you want to reach out to that individual, please go ahead and do that. And then we are going to close out with some music because it's December already. Can you believe that? Just like that, it's the last month of the year. 2020 has been one for the books. I hope you all are staying healthy. We appreciate all your positive responses when you send us emails before and after the program and the feedback you provide. So we are so thankful for you all and welcome. We're going to get started. It's 2:05. I hope you went and got your sturdy chair because John is going to get us pumped up and going and get ready to listen to all this great information. Now's the time. Also, if you want to invite a friend to join us, welcome, and take it away, John.
Yes. First of all, I want to thank everybody and welcome everybody to the Alzheimer's Disease Research Center from Emory. And first, make sure you have a sturdy chair. And if it's some motions that you cannot do, don't do it. I want to make sure you're working that entire body, and let's get going. Here we go. Let's create that circulation now. Watch it, watch it. Come on. Switch legs. Come on, we just warming up now. Come on. Bring it back. Both legs wide. Come on. Give me that waistline. Come on. I just want y'all to just warm up with me now. We're telling that body we're doing something good for it. Come on. Let's go walking. Come on. Come on. Come on. I need that blood going. Because we're about to work out in a minute. We waking it up now. I'm gonna slow it down now. I need that upper body right here. Let's go. Press with me. Come on. Watch it, watch it. Come on. I want y'all to feel good right now. Cause we're doing something good for our body. Watch it. Watch it. Come on, rock with it. Come on, come on. Watch it. Come on. There we go. Come on, come on. Stay with me. Bring it, bring it. Bring it, bring it up. I need them hands up now. I see some of y'all need to get them hands up. Get them up now. Hey, hey, let's go. Come on, wave with me. Hey, I want the smiling faces now. I need y'all to smile. That's another muscle. Come on, come on. Let's go. Come on. I'm about to stand up on this one. If you want to stand up, you can. And if you want to sit down, give me a seat. Come on. Now. Up. Right leg. Come on. Watch this, watch this, watch this. Let's switch legs. Watch this. Roll. Come on, come on, come on. Hey, I want y'all right now to just do what you want to do. Come on. There we go. Hey, next week, I want you to make sure you have a water bottle, because we're going to work out. I'm going to show you some exercises you can do with a water bottle. And also, if you have a broomstick, I'm going to show you a lot of exercises, the body sculpt, for rehab, for the shoulders, the back, a lot of core exercises you can do with a simple broomstick. So next week, have your broomstick, a big water bottle, or water bottles, and I'm gonna show you a lot of techniques you can do at home. And before I go, I wanna say thank you for all your letters, your cards, and some of your emails, because I really appreciate it. And I'm just here for you. And if something you wanna know or something you need to work on, just ask, and I'm here for you. And see you later, bye.
Thank you, John.
Woo! All right. Yes, he is awesome. We appreciate him so much for getting us moving each and every week. So every week since March 31st, we've been joining you and providing this amazing opportunity and platform. So who's up next? You're going to hear from Dr. Ken Hepburn, and he has a topic that has come about pretty frequently over the course of the pandemic. So he's going to take some time here and walk us through some strategies on managing conflict with others when we're taking care of our loved one living with dementia. Hi, Ken. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great.
Good. So, Crystal, if I can get screen sharing privileges, I will show my slides. But the whole topic of dealing with conflict, I think, is such a natural one for the caregiving situation. I remember back in the, I think it was the 90s anyhow, that there used to be a bumper sticker, and the bumper sticker said, it didn't actually say this, it said stuff happens, but it said different from stuff. And it was kind of like reflection on the world is complicated and hard. And I used to work with a family therapist at the time. And I said, you know, we could make a fortune if we just put out a bumper sticker that said families happen. Because I think it is kind of in the nature of being part of family or being part of a community that we, you know, we have the unfortunate opportunity or potential for conflict. And so that's a kind of good segue into today's topic. If you were waiting for the end, for the last slide to be the one that says, so here's the answer, you probably should do more exercises with John, because that's not what's going to happen. So we talk about managing conflict with family and friends. Originally, the topic was with loved ones, but the conflict isn't always with loved ones. So it's all those people in your network who are not primarily involved in caregiving. Your people who are caregivers kind of know that they're it, and that there's this constellation of people who are in orbit around the caregiver and the care recipient. And the relationship that they have from those orbital positions are often quite complicated. So before I go any further, I want to remind you of a slide I used a while ago that we teach caregivers in our Savvy Caregiver program. And it is essentially the nursing process. This is what nurses and doctors and social workers do in dealing with clients. And the first thing they do is to assess what's going on, to scope out what's going on. And so the first thing I want to say to you about managing conflict is first assess the conflict. And only when you get a feeling like you have a really good understanding of what's happening here, not how you feel. You probably feel hurt or annoyed or belittled and some combination of all of those. Not how you feel, but what's going on. Assess what's going on. Then think about developing a plan and trying it and seeing what happens. So we want to talk a little bit about assessment here. And we have a principle that every conflictful family is conflictful in its own way. So there's no real clear pattern, but the assessment, I think, is to first identify what are the types of conflicts that you're experiencing. What is your experience of conflict within this family friend universe that you're the center of? Well, you know, there could be genuine disagreements. Your sister could say, I really don't want mom and daycare. Or frank misunderstandings. Somebody thinks something would be very good for the person, and you think that would be very bad for the person. You just don't agree on it, but you don't agree on sort of theoretical grounds. You know that reality orientation really isn't beneficial, but maybe your cousin has heard about it as a good thing. Misguided good intentions. Honestly, I've heard this line. I really thought a cocktail would help. So somebody who came in, took care of your father and gave him a cocktail or a beer or something, because, you know, it might be like old times, and it was just not a good idea. Or this one I think is really common, this deviation from norm-based expectations, particularly for women, probably particularly for daughters, and maybe probably particularly in certain racial ethnic groups. There's a big expectation about a role expectation, a gendered role expectation. And so the notion of a good daughter would do this can really lead to lots and lots of conflict. Relationship histories, and relationship complications. Husband, wife, remarriage. They have their own children. Husband develops dementia. Wife is the caregiver. Wife's children. Mom, you're killing yourself for this guy. Husband's children. You're just not doing enough for our father. History with somebody. You know, mom always liked you the best. Some sort of denial or perceived avoidance, perceived or real avoidance. You know, you're just being overly dramatic. This is not as bad as you're telling us it is. Or there can be genuine bad actors out there. You know, people who say, this is my inheritance, or I'm entitled to some of dad's money now, and I'm going to take it. So, and I'm just, you know, scratching the surface of possible ways. But if you're feeling conflict, you got to figure out what the source of it is. So, practical starting points for a conflict management plan. These are just kind of nostrums, if you will, slogans, but don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. If you can arrange a solution to a conflict that isn't, you know, 100%, but even gets you 64% there, now that's good. That is going to take stress out of your life. Truce can be a victory. You know, if you're in a running conflict and you just can manage to say, let's take off for a while, that can be a victory. Some hills are not worth dying for. There may be conflict situations that to pursue some end to the conflict is going to cost you more, and maybe leaving the field is what's necessary. And also recognizing that miracles really seldom happen. So you have to be realistic here. So again, assess. You've done the assessment. Now think about a plan. Well, some possible plans, I think, and this is kind of all I have to say. One is a full frontal assault. Just take the person on directly. If this is something that is really impeding your caregiving and your well-being, and you think, I've got to look at this and I can face it front on, and I'm going to say something, and I'm going to insist on something, and see where the cards, you know, chips fall, then that's a strategy. You kind of have to assess what's the chances of this working. You know, I've put this in terms of kind of military terms because it is a sort of a military campaign to stop a conflict. So a flanking action, maybe instead of directly dealing with the conflict that's going on between you and another person or another portion of the family, maybe you can move over to the side and begin to create alliances with other portions of the family that allow those portions of the family or the friend network to buffer the kind of conflict that you're feeling from the other person or the other part of the family. This is really kind of a joint action strategy too, that if you're able to find allies in the rest of the family, possibly that alliance will present such a front that the person who's causing the conflict, or who seems to be the cause of the conflict, will begin to dampen down. One of the things a joint action can also achieve is if you need to expel someone from the network. You know, if there's a really bad actor out there, it probably takes a good deal of your own network to get together and say, look, you're causing trouble. You got to get out. You're just not welcome anymore. That may not be a clean break, but at least there's a larger message than one that you're giving along that says you're out of the picture. And use mercenaries. You know, there's no reason not to bring a social worker, a family counselor, a minister, a rabbi, priest into this, and the family physician. You know, call Monica. Will give you her home phone number, so call Monica and bring her into it. But bring others into it who are not necessarily part of your family friend network, and enlist their assistance. So as I said, no real answers, but just strategies. Possible outcomes, maybe you'll get a negotiated settlement. We'll agree on something. This is effectively a treaty or a truce. Maybe there's a strategic withdrawal on either side or on both sides. Or maybe you just quit the field and you say, you know, I'm not going to deal with you anymore. You're not part of my network. These are some thoughts about what might happen. And with that process, putting some of these strategies in work, see what happens. Maybe it will cause a reassessment point, a new plan, and you keep going. I want to just finish by just absolutely acknowledging how really prevalent conflict is in these caregiving family situations, how difficult it is for the caregiver, how much added stress it is, just to endorse that if you're in this situation, you're feeling stress, it's real, and you have my best thoughts. That's what I got.
Thank you, Ken. So in observation,
I'm not hearing anybody here. We may have lost Cornelia.
oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. So in your observation, what is the greatest source of conflict?
You know, I do think we have an increasing number of melded families, and the stepchildren to step parent can be very difficult. I think that the cultural expectations, particularly on daughters and daughters-in-law, is very, very heavy. And it's really particularly difficult because you have one generation, the sort of parental generation, that has a much deeper subscription to those norms than the sort of middle generation of daughters and daughters-in-law. And so there's a really different set of buy-ins into the norm. And yet, particularly coming from the older generation to the younger, a sort of an empathy for the fact that times have changed hasn't developed. So that's one of the, I think, pretty classic problems. Siblings, I think, you know, you just have that history. So I think those are probably the three that come most. Maybe I would even put the norm-based one first. And, you know, especially I've worked in the Latinx community and working now with Korean communities and have done work in African-American communities. There are lots of expectations from within the very solid and important value bases of those communities that particularly the middle generation caregivers have to deal with and live with. I think that's complicated stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Hepburn,
Okay.
this is Dr. Parker. I just wanted to add something to that. One of the things that Ken is pointing out is, or kind of alluding to, a lot of families don't have these discussions, and having these discussions and understanding what the person who's affected might want if he or she is unable to speak for themselves, like advanced directives. I think that's what we aim for. It's very important that somebody know what you want when it comes your time. I mean, any of us on the call, it's sort of like, okay, what will I want done for me in the event that I can't speak or communicate on my own? So establishing advanced directives and living wills while you have the ability is something that's very important and keeps families from developing a lot of confusion.
I think that Monica's so spot on with that comment, because the more a dialogue can happen across families and with friends, both in terms of establishing the advanced directives, but just kind of touching base, this is where things are, the better. And I think there's a really terrific comment Ms. Collins just made. COVID doesn't help. You know, we're so isolated from one another now that it's harder and just so much harder to have these conversations. And I think it probably makes whatever conflict there is intensified.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I think Dr. Hepburn's going to hang around a little longer. We are now going to transition to Dr. Parker. You've been sending in some of your frequently asked questions related to dementia, and she's going to be responding to those questions. So, Dr. Parker, can you talk about healthy eating for your brain? That is one of the questions we've received.
Yeah, and I've been looking at the list of questions that I had from last week, and how do you prevent Alzheimer's? How do you prevent dementia? Well, science and research is coming around to the discussion of how important lifestyle really is for good health, and secondarily, brain health and or heart health. So there's certain things that all of us need to do just to be in good health. And just by way of reminder, and to talk about the Lancet Commission's report, is what is healthy eating for a healthy brain, for a healthy heart, for longevity? And more that is becoming consuming more plant-based foods, eating more from a plant-based diet versus lots of meat. In the context of Alzheimer's, we like to support the Mediterranean diet habits. Now, before I came in here today, for example, I had a Greek salad. It's like, so what's so great about the Greeks? Why do we have to do the Mediterranean diet? Well, you have to look at what they're eating. They're eating freshly sourced foods, largely plant-based, and they're not eating highly saturated fats, no animal fats, more like olive oil, okay? And vegetables. As a clinician, I refer patients to the myplate.gov. There's a version for geriatric patients, there's a version for children, but in its simplest form, it is a plate. If you take a plate, a round plate, and cut it in half, and half of that plate should be fruits and vegetables. That's the easiest thing I can think of. 1/4 of that plate is protein, whatever your protein is, whether it's beef, fowl, you know, or eggs, something like that. And, you know, another quarter can be grains of some sort. So the easiest dietary recommendation that most medical providers are going to make to you is learn about a Mediterranean diet. And if you can't find a Mediterranean diet, or you don't particularly like the Mediterranean diet, look at myplate.gov. That's our United States modified food pyramid, our new food pyramid. So eat healthfully, eat Mediterranean, think myplate.gov. So one of the other things that gets me to something else in terms of how do you prevent Alzheimer's? How do you prevent dementia? If you go back to some of our discussions about what causes dementia, you know that there are different types of dementia. And when we start talking about diet to prevent dementia, we think in terms of diets that support good heart health, that are cardiovascular protective. So what's a cardiovascular disease? It is high blood pressure. We know that developing high blood pressure or having a 20-year history of high blood pressure predisposes one to developing a type of dementia. I like to say that puts you at risk for having a stroke, but we do know that a 20-year history of high blood pressure that's not been well controlled is something that can precipitate Alzheimer's disease or the Alzheimer's cascade. So other cardiovascular disease risk factors include high cholesterol, diabetes, irregular heartbeats or atrial fibrillation, and congestive heart failure. These things make it more likely that you will develop a stroke or stroke-related kind of problem, such that you have brain cells that are no longer receiving enough blood, i.e. enough oxygen, for them to remain viable. So eating healthfully, doing everything you can to avoid developing a cardiovascular disease. So that means the younger we are when we start eating better, being more physically active, aiming for an ideal body weight or a body mass index of 25 or less, the better we are and the healthier we are, and the less likely we are to develop Alzheimer's and a related dementia. Okay, do most patients develop an inability to walk? I can't see real well, but you can hear me hopefully better than last week. Do most dementia patients develop an inability to walk? Well, keep in mind that dementia is a neurodegenerative process, and the nerves that cause you to ambulate or walk deteriorate as well. So a lot of people with advanced dementia will have difficulty with their ability to balance and their ability to walk. All right. So a couple of other things that I wanted to pick up here on etiologies and causes for Alzheimer's and different dementias. The dementias are different, as we talked about during our forum. What causes one dementia may be a little different from what causes another one. As we learn more about the process and how we can intervene in the process, that's how we kind of prevent the dementia. But cardiovascular disease, hypertension, obesity are things that we can prevent by changing our lifestyle. So one of the things that we are really stressing in brain health now is what can you do to keep yourself healthy? So better diet, better exercise, ideal body weight, very important. Okay, another question I have here is, tell me something about the genetics of Alzheimer's. Tell me how hereditary Alzheimer's is, and how can I help my offspring to avoid Alzheimer's? Now that's important because Alzheimer's disease does have a strong genetic component. We've talked about ApoE4 genes that you pass down from one parent to the children, but there are about 30 other genes that are inherited. We don't understand how all of those different genes may result in Alzheimer's, but we do know that if people get 2 copies of ApoE4 in particular, you are at higher risk for developing Alzheimer's type dementia. And the question is, can I get tested for this? Well, in general, going to your doctor is not going to get you that test. You have to go to a geneticist to get that kind of test. Most genetic studies are not paid for by your insurance. Let me repeat that. Most genetic studies are not paid for by your insurance. In Alzheimer's research, we do a lot of genetic testing, and that genetic testing is covered by the cost of the research that we're doing. All right, so this is another excuse, if you will, for one's family, particularly if there's a family history of it, for a family to become involved in Alzheimer's research simply because you are passing down genes, and those genetic profiles are more likely to be found in research than they are if you go to your doctor and ask for a study. People kill me when they say, I have whatever the cost of the test is, I can pay it. Very rarely does that occur. So research is one way of learning more about your genetic predispositions. Okay, let's see. Just started taking gabapentin, and it mentioned Alzheimer's as a possible side effect. How strong is this statement? I think the better answer for me is to tell you that a lot of medications that are prescribed, certainly medications that interact with the central nervous system, can create problems that may make it appear that somebody is having cognitive difficulties. Medication side effects, okay? Side effects or adverse drug events are things that occur with regularly prescribed medicines. Every medicine that all of us take has a side effect profile, and you have to look at it and determine whether your risk of developing those side effects outweighs your need for taking that medication in the first place. All right. Again, I'm gonna get back to the familial inheritance and how do I learn about it. Research participation is probably one of the better ways, certainly the most cost-effective way, because participating in research doesn't cost you anything. All right, we talked about nutrition, and to some degree, people are asking about Lewy body versus frontotemporal dementia. And I think in all of the different studies that different presenters that we've had in the last couple of months, you've learned that there are different societies, like there's the Alzheimer's Foundation of America, the Lewy Body Disease Dementia Association of America. These different societies have greater information on their websites and services that they can offer families that are suffering with this. But here, as in any other Alzheimer's disease research center, depending upon the investigator or the research scientist who's investigating it, you may or may not have more studies available. But all of the research we're doing in Alzheimer's is shedding a little bit more light on the other types of dementia. It wasn't until very recently that we understood the differences between the different types of dementia. And before any doctor can effectively comment on what kind of dementia you have, there has to be a certain kind of evaluation that takes place. Diagnosing Alzheimer's correctly requires a process. It's not a simple, I take this test like a COVID test, it's positive or negative. We don't yet have that kind of test available. Okay, let me see. Couple of questions that I've seen here that I'm looking at is, if there are no medications available, why is early diagnosis important? What I'd like to say here is that when it comes to evaluating dementia, if you remember, there are several different types of dementia. All dementia is not Alzheimer's, and all things that look like dementia are not necessarily. There may be medication combinations that are causing a problem. There may be mental health diagnoses that have not been made or correctly examined to get a proper examination, such that you understand what's actually going on. So I think that the most important thing that is important is that having an evaluation for dementia may reveal something other than Alzheimer's. And there may be something other than Alzheimer's that we find that is something that can be treated and managed before frank dementia and helplessness sets in. As of this moment, we're working on definitive interventional drugs for Alzheimer's. So we don't yet have the drug, but we're getting close. But more importantly, early diagnosis and assessment for people who are having cognitive difficulties helps us understand what is actually going on. And again, it may not always be Alzheimer's. Okay, question, how important is one's genetics in dementia? Again, that depends upon the type of dementia. As I said earlier, Alzheimer's is associated with at least 30 different kinds of genes. One of the ones most commonly associated with Alzheimer's is something called ApoE4. Apolipoprotein E4, and that's a gene that has been widely studied in Alzheimer's. That is one, but there are others. So there are other things that you can look at. Let me see. What can we do to slow down memory loss? Well, I think to slow down memory loss, you keep your body healthy. Other than Alzheimer's, the one that is most likely to affect middle-aged people in the southern United States are those things that have to do with vascular disease, the hypertension, the cholesterol, the diabetes. Those sorts of things need to be properly managed to keep you from developing Alzheimer's. Staying socially engaged, participating in things that require complex brain functions, like playing chess, playing bridge, mathematical kinds of things, remaining a musician. All of those things that are things that keep your brain moving, keep your brain processing information. Okay, now let's see. Will contact sports increase your likelihood of being diagnosed with dementia? If you remember a couple of weeks ago, we had Dr. Robert Stern from Boston University, who does the studies on chronic traumatic brain injuries affecting professional athletes, soldiers, and people who have suffered from domestic abuse. Yes, chronic trauma to the head, chronic head injuries do put one at risk for developing cognitive dysfunction or abnormalities. Excuse me. Further study can help isolate the types of brain deficits that one experiences. Even Parkinson's disease or Parkinsonism. The late Muhammad Ali had multiple head injuries, and it's felt that some of his Parkinsonism was related to the multiple head injuries he suffered over time. Okay, Lewy body compared to Alzheimer's, the pathology is a little bit different, the deposits, whereas in Alzheimer's disease, you have the accumulation of A beta and tau proteins. In Lewy body dementia, you are more likely to have an accumulation of Lewy bodies, which is a different protein. It's a different accumulation of sorts. So when you start looking at these different neurodegenerative processes, there are different brain proteins that are accumulating. And I'm about to end right now, but I just want you to look at research as an option to better explore your risk and certainly your family's risk if you have a family history of Alzheimer's, not necessarily the other ones, but Alzheimer's in particular. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. One quick question for Ken before we transition to Matt and Whit, and then our finale with Ms. Dominque Johnson. Ken, if someone is a new caregiver, that was one of the questions posed earlier, is my spouse just got diagnosed with dementia, now what? What advice would you give that individual as a caregiver?
You know, I think in line with Monica's comment about family meetings, I think that calling together your pod or your whatever your network is, either as a group or individually, but beginning to inform people about the situation. So that's a tricky business. You want to make sure that the person who's been diagnosed as living with the illness understands that there's now a period of change, and he or she has a chronic illness, and he's going or she's going to need help, and should understand that the family needs to be made aware. So I'd say that one of the very first things, in addition to finding and making sure you've got a primary care provider in whom you have great trust and who is knowledgeable about the situation, begin to inform the network and enlist their understanding, their empathy, and their assistance. They're all going to say, "Oh, this is terrible. I'd like to help." You don't yet know what kind of help you're going to need, but kind of elicit that promise. Okay, I hear you. You're there. I will call on you, and it's really important that you remain there.
Okay, excellent. Okay, we are now going to transition to hear from Matt. He's going to be sharing some updates about our cognitive empowerment program here at Emory and what you all can expect that is coming online here in January. And then after Matt, you're going to hear from Whit Morgan. Each week we profile our healthy aging study. And then after Matt, we're hoping we can play a video by Laterica Moats. She's one of the research coordinators for the Emory Healthy Brain Study. And please note, the Healthy Aging Study is different from the Healthy Brain Study. And then we're going to close out with a live music demo. During December, we want to keep things upbeat and filled with joy. And we have always talked about how music is neuroprotective. So one of the things Dr. Parker mentioned was getting exercise keeping your nutrition up, as well as even, picking up the task of learning how to play an instrument. But also listening to music is very therapeutic as well. So Matt, tell us about what we can expect with the Cognitive Empowerment Program here in the coming weeks.
Yeah. So hi everyone. I'm Matt. I'm the tech specialist at the Cognitive Empowerment Program. You may have remembered me from a few weeks ago because we kind of did a test run where we did our CEP, our Cognitive Empowerment Program live programming, which was normally on Wednesdays. We tried it after BrainTalk Live, and it went really well. I want to thank everyone who participated in that. We talked about nutrition and different forms of dementia. Went really well, and it went so well that we wanted to continue doing it more. So this month and last month, we've been working on getting ready to start that up in January. So starting in January, for anyone who has participated in our live programming for the community on Wednesdays, we're no longer going to be doing on Wednesdays, but we're going to be doing an hour of programming after BrainTalk Live. So for anyone out there who really enjoys BrainTalk Live but wants some more of it, we're going to just do another whole hour after BrainTalk Live starting at the beginning of January. Our sessions are very similar. So for people who don't know, our Cognitive Empowerment Program is it's an intensive program where both people with mild cognitive impairment and their care partners both participate in several hours of programming throughout the week. We used to do it in person. Now during COVID, we do it all virtually. And we have lots of activities that people do. People do physical activity. They work with our cognitive team. We have a nutritionist. We have art therapy. We have Tai Chi. We have yoga. We have Live Well, which is a social support group, and we're going to be providing bits and pieces of that live for free to the community after Brain Talk Live. And if you're interested in getting involved in the more intensive program, then please reach out to your neurologist at Emory. All of our referrals are currently going through the clinic. So if you would like to get more involved, just talk to your primary clinician at Emory, and they'll be able to put in your referral through the Emory system. And one last thing, we're probably going to do a one more kind of like test kind of session here in December, probably December 15th. And that might just be like one little test session just to make sure that we're up and running for the Cognitive Empowerment Program, but we'll be formally every week after Brain Talk Live, going to be starting in January. And so I'm seeing a few questions about like, will Tai Chi continue? So every week we'll have a different service provider at from the Cognitive Empowerment team. So Tai Chi will be one of them. She just won't be every single week. Yeah, so that's it for my announcement for the Cognitive Empowerment Program. I hope to see everyone in our coming sessions in the future in January. And yeah, it was great talking to you guys today.
Okay, so is there any way to see the program from a few weeks about diet from the CEP program?
Unfortunately, we had a recording issue, and this is part of the reason why we're testing things out. We're making sure that we're going to be ready for January. I will check back in with Margot, our nutritionist, to see if she can get the slides out. But unfortunately, we don't have that recording.
Okay, all right. And let's see. Okay, so be on the lookout. Read your emails, everyone. We will share updates about Cognitive Empowerment Program and what they plan on doing. As always, we're going to continue these Tuesday sessions every Tuesday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. And I also added the link if you wanted to view previous broadcasts. Dr. Parker, here's one question for you. Thank you so much, Matt. We'll see you hopefully next week, if not sooner. Dr. Parker, is there an instrument that you would recommend for individuals who have aging decline?
I think that one of the things that's important about music, just like doing Sudoku or anything else, is while you have the ability to learn something new, you do that. But if somebody is already in the throes of a dementing process, trying to get him or her to play a game, to play an instrument, is going to be an exercise in great frustration and futility. So if you are cognitively intact and there is nothing wrong with your brain right this moment, if you want to take up an instrument, maybe you play violin in junior high school or high school, maybe you play piano. This would be a good time for you to take up that instrument again. But for somebody who is in the throes of cognitive impairment, it is not a good idea to start something new that they've never been exposed to before. That is frustrating for them. Is that pretty clear?
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, Whit, share with us all about healthy aging. We've taken a little break, but again, we want to keep that in front of our partners and members who are online before we close out the program. Thank you to the 154 people who joined us today. A link to the recording will be sent out via email, as well as a PDF of Dr. Hepburn's PowerPoint.
All right. Thank you so much, Cornelia, and everybody that spoke today. I've got some really great information. For those that have not joined us here before, my name is Whit. I am the communication specialist here for the Emory Healthy Aging Study. And I pull up our website for anybody that's not familiar with it, because this is an important tool here for us. But before we get too far into, kind of how to get involved and everything, I just want to give you a quick overview of what this research study is, what we're really doing, and some of the things that make it really unique. And so the Emory Healthy Aging Study it's a longitudinal research study that we've been conducting now for almost 5 years. We are basically trying to build a database of information that is helping us better understand not only how we age, but also the causes of certain age-related diseases. And we're doing this by having our participants complete a health history questionnaire when they sign up, and then updating that health history questionnaire once a year with any information that may have changed over the course of the year. And we do this year over year, as I said before, to kind of try and build this database of information where we're able to hopefully look at different patterns in the data and glean different pieces of information from that data. But one of the things that makes this research study so unique is that this is one of the largest initiatives that Emory has undertaken in Atlanta. We are shooting to try and get 1,000 or 100,000 participants to register and join the study. We're really excited to announce that we have just over 34,000 people that have actually registered for the study. So we're working our way towards that 100,000 goal pretty well. Obviously, we need every person that we can to get involved with it. And another thing that makes this study so unique is that this is actually done entirely online. And so while we do really focus heavily, within the Atlanta area, and that's because we use this information to also look for participants for our sub-study, the Healthy Brain Study. And that's something you'll see in the video here with Laterica in just a little bit. But we also, want to include this opportunity to anybody in the United States. And so if you're interested in participating in the Emory Healthy Aging Study, the requirements are that you are over the age of 18, that you live somewhere in the continental United States or in like a US territory, that you have an internet connected device. It could be an iPhone, it could be an iPad, a Samsung phone, or a computer. And that you are able to read and understand English, because our health history questionnaire is currently only available in English. Completing the questionnaire itself takes most people on average about 25 to 30 minutes. It's going to ask you questions about some demographic information. It's going to ask you some questions about your lifestyle, your habits, what kind of foods are you eating? How much exercise are you getting? Are you playing a musical instrument? Do you read books regularly? Do you have any existing medical conditions? And this information, as we collect this, as I said, when we're going through these questionnaires, are helping us better understand how we age and kind of the age-related processes that our bodies go through. And so I pull up our website here because this is a really great resource available. We've got some different links and stuff on here about like frequently asked questions. We have some blog posts, annual reports, but this is really kind of the go-to hub for joining the Emory Healthy Aging Study. And you'll see this big yellow button up here in the top right-hand corner. If you were interested in participating in this research study, you could go to our website, and I'll drop this in the chat as well. It's healthyaging.emory.edu. And when you click this Join the Study button, there's 4 steps that you'll see. Takes you through registration, obviously, where you'll create your username and password so you can log in to complete your health history questionnaires. It'll take you through the consent process. The contact information, again, this is just in case we need to get a hold of you. And then finally, that health history questionnaire. And it walks you through step by step on each question. Like I said, you can do this on any internet connected device. Generally speaking, most people seem to have a better user experience if they're doing it on like a computer or an iPad. And I think that's mainly just because screens are bigger. It makes things easier to read. But if you want to do it on your phone, by all means, you certainly can. And like I said before, if you're interested in participating in this, as long as you're over the age of 18, you live in the United States, you've got connection to the internet, and you can read and understand English, you can participate in research. And this is a really great opportunity for folks that maybe haven't participated in a research study before, but kind of want to get their feet wet without, jumping in, or if they're worried about, any kind of drugs or poking and prodding, that kind of thing. This is a really great introduction to the world of research, and it's obviously supporting us and our research opportunities here at Emory.
Thank you, Whit.
Thank you so much.
One question earlier is, what results are you sharing with individuals who complete the Healthy Aging Study?
That's a great question. So I'm actually going to backtrack just a little bit here on our website. And underneath our annual reports tab, in our annual reports, whenever we have research that is published using the data that we collect, for example, in this past year's or previous year's annual report, I'm currently working on this past year's annual report. But under our research tab, we make sure that we have, information that we've gleaned, what we've learned so far from different researchers utilizing the data and studying this data. Make sure that it's available here on our website. And so right now, as far as the information that we're looking at, a lot of the stuff that you give us, for example, your results are information that you already obviously know. If our researchers utilize the information and start going through, we make sure that we include this here. We also have a really cool link for our published research, or if you want to click on that, it opens up actually all of the published research posters that have been used in presentations from the researchers. And then back on our annual reports page, one of the cool things that we use here is our participants button. And this is where we provide breakdowns, not only on, information on, kind of the demographic breakdowns, but what we also do is we look at things like location. And we also have in the past compared response questions, so people may average, maybe they drink once a week, for example. Well, if I drink once a week, how does my alcohol intake compare to other participants in the study? And our annual reports here are a really great way to kind of get some insight as, how do my
I think we lost Whit. Okay, well, again, thank you for joining us. We are going to post the healthyaging.emory.edu link for you. Next up, we are going to talk about the healthy brain, and then Ms. Johnson is going to give us a live music demo. Again, we mentioned that during December, we want to keep things engaging and very lighthearted for you. So as we close out, it's shortly after 3 o'clock. Thank you all for hanging with us. Crystal, if you're able to pull up that 3-minute video where Laterica talks about the healthy brain study, and then we're going to close out with a live music performance that you do not want to miss. So Crystal, let me know if you are able to get that video going. Thank you so much. All right. I didn't hear any sound, but I saw the video playing. And it may not play for you. All right. Okay, well then next week we will be showing you Laterica's video as well as sending a link out for you. So next up, I want to welcome Ms. Dominque Johnson. Thank you so much for joining us. From where are you? Share with us. Oh, I think you're still muted.
Unmute. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, there you are. Welcome. Thank you. I again had a last minute request and she responded. So thank you again. Welcome. And share with us a little bit about what you are going to share with us today.
So of course, you know, I'm a musician, and this is what I do for a living. I love spreading joy through music. So today I was going to play for you guys a very well-known Christmas song, you know, chestnuts roasted on an open fire, Merry Christmas to you. So I was going to give you guys that today, hoping that it can put a smile on your faces during this holiday season.
Thank you again, and take it away.
All right. Can you guys hear this okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, a round of applause for you, Ms. Johnson. Thank you again. It is the holiday season. And again, every week we will close out with a live rendition just to bring you some joy during this December as we close out 2020. We are looking forward to 2021. Yes. Oh, thank you. Yes, everyone said absolutely beautiful, wonderful. I hope that put a smile on your face. We want to keep you engaged and informed and also energized. A lot is going on. We don't want you to we want to keep your hope up and keep your joy up. So if you need additional information about our program, you can visit our website. That's www.alzheimers.emory.edu. And again, we will send out a link to the recording. Remember, Whit, somehow his computer crashed on him, but it is healthyaging.emory.edu. And we will send out the link to Laterica's video if you have questions about healthy aging or the healthy brain study. We had some audio issues. So again, welcome to Brain Talk Live. We will see you back here next Tuesday at 2 o'clock. And our goal is to try to have someone from Emory talk about COVID, the testing and vaccine, and what that process will look like. So be on the lookout for that information as we plan the next couple of Tuesdays. We're hoping to incorporate that content because everyone is asking what is going on with the COVID vaccine. We plan to share that with you hopefully in the coming weeks. Okay, thank you. Thank you. And you can keep on commenting. We'll stay on a little bit longer, but thank you again for joining us, and we will see you next Tuesday. Have a great rest of the week and happy December.